Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, tuberculosis is back in style in Seattle schools. Oh, wait, that's a bad thing. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I love the State of the Union. I say it all the time. I love the theater. I don't care if it's a Democrat president, Republican president. And last night's was one of my absolute favorite. Why? Because President Trump is a master of the media. Say what you will about him. He has even said before, when he doesn't like what they're talking about on TV, he said this during his first term, he would tweet something and the news would change. He knows what he's doing, and last night that was on full display. What's also full on display is that the Democrats stand for nothing. I mean that literally. I mean that figuratively. Okay, they didn't stand up during the speech. Big deal. It's a State of the Union. But President Trump took some calculated risks knowing they wouldn't stand up. And they have such Trump derangement syndrome. And couple that with they are so indebted to their own base, so afraid of their own base, that they can't have anybody bipartisanship at all, not even over Team USA's hockey victory. So last night, one of the first moments that happens, President Trump talks about all the winning, the winning, the winning. And as he's talking, Team USA men's hockey enters the room, and this was one of my favorite moments of the speech.
Our country is winning again. In fact, we're winning so much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in. The members of this.
Now that sounds nice, right? USA, USA, USA. That sounds really great, right? Before he continued on with the speech. One little teensy tiny problem. Rashida Tlaib, the congresswoman from Hamas, is wearing a Hamas keffiyeh, a button that says F ICE, a tag that says release the files. And while everybody else is chanting USA, 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 she turns to Ilhan Omar and says, KKK, KKK. This is one of the top voices in the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party will say, no, 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 they're the fringe activists. Well, this is who the top voices in the Democrat Party listen to. The squad runs the Democrat Party. This was a moment of bipartisanship, and she can't even cheer for a hockey team. This is a woman who in her office has the Palestinian flag. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not the Palestinian flag. It's the Hamas keffiyeh surrounding the U.S. Capitol. She blocks out Israel on maps. She hates America. She talks about how terrible America is. And I don't know if you can fix a divide like this. How come we never hear the Democrats condemn somebody like her? I tear into Republicans all the time when they won't stand up against somebody like Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson. I do it all the time on this show. How come the Democrats never call out her or Ilhan Omar or AOC for any of their nonsense? Ever. And whenever there's something condemning them for something awful that they did, they never vote that way. I hear Republicans all the time ripping Tom Massey. I hear the President of the United States ripping Tom Massey. I see Republicans, including the President of the United States, ripping Marjorie Taylor Greene. And yet you never see it for somebody like Tlaib. Never, ever, 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 ever. So a moment that could have been bipartisan, completely destroyed. John Fetterman said a few days ago, and he's the only adult in the room. First of all, wore a suit last night, looked very nice, shook the president's hand, only Democrat to do so. The adult in the room is John Fetterman. That's the adult in the room on the Democrat side of the aisle. Half the Democrats weren't even there. But he said, you're going to look like idiots, and that's exactly what they look like. I don't know what the Democrats stand for. I'm very serious. All they do is say they hate Trump. That only gets you so far. What's your idea? Okay, you want 11 million illegal aliens to get amnesty. That's not very popular. That's not popular with the electorate at all. That's an 80-20 issue. Now, maybe if you guys want to have a discussion about DACA, maybe if you want to have a discussion about people who hadn't committed crimes who are in this country, maybe there's a discussion to be had, but they don't want it because they want the issue. And in that respect, the Republicans want the issue too. But they don't want to have that conversation. How many people can you actually have that conversation with? They don't want to have it. They talk about Renee Good and Alex Preddy, but they never talk about the thousands of Americans who were killed by illegal aliens, let alone the hundreds of thousands that were killed by fentanyl coming illegally across our borders. What do the Democrats stand for? All I can tell is that the Democrats stand for the most ideologically radicalized wing of their party. We're going to agree with them so we don't get in trouble from them. AOC is the top fundraiser in the Democrat Party. The top fundraiser in the Democrat Party. How about we go through a list of the things the Democrats didn't stand for last night? Voter ID laws, putting American citizens over illegal aliens, the lowest murder rate since the 1900s. Keeping violent criminals locked up. People who were families of people who were killed by illegal aliens. People who were a little girl who was injured by an illegal alien. U.S. service members who captured an evil dictator, a communist dictator. Well, that's because they agree with the communism. I don't know what the Democrats stand for. I just don't. And President Trump used this very, very effectively last night. Like this.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
The Democrats aren't standing up. The Democrats are not standing up. They're all sitting down, and President Trump is just gesturing in their direction. Look, see. Whoever was running the cameras last night did a great job. Because here's the thing about the cameras for a second. They're not controlled by Fox News or MSNBC or anybody else like that. Basically, it's whoever's in party in the House gets to kind of sort of tell C-SPAN, here's your camera angles, here's what we want you to focus on. Whoever directed this thing, when you're panning out and showing none of the Democrats standing up for that, that really says a lot. President Trump last night was trying to reset the agenda and saying, here's why you voted for me, because we've kind of gotten off message. The Democrats have dragged us off message. And he said, here's the 80-20 issues. Do you want me or do you want crazy? And what it basically came down to last night is I don't think there's Democrats or Republicans anymore. I think there's common sense versus insane, versus absolutely insane, like this moment.
Agree, no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we've been talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. Almost nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
He's right. Now, this morning, earlier, I was on a podcast debating some far, far lefty person. Not going to disparage them the way they disparaged me in the podcast, but I was having a spirited argument, shall we say. And they said, they said, this isn't really happening. This isn't something that's really happening, and he's making a big deal about it. It's just a Democrat talking point. And us here in Washington, people have been listening to the Ari Hoffman show. You know damn well it's happening. Senate Bill 5599. Senate Bill 5599, state-sanctioned kidnapping, where basically a kid can run away from Florida or Idaho or New York or New Jersey or Connecticut or any state in the U.S., come to Washington because they want to have a sex change and their parents don't. Or because they want to identify as LGBTQIA and their parents don't want them to. Or because they want to have an abortion and their parents don't want them to. And they can run here, become a ward of the state. And other states recognize this as a problem, which is why Idaho, Florida, and 14 other states have now filed a lawsuit and wanted to go before the Supreme Court over Senate Bill 5599 because they say your insanity is now affecting our youth. Brandy's had a few documented cases of this. We've had a few cases of this that we've covered. And yet, the Democrats will say it's not happening. It's a Republican talking point. Even one kid kidnapped is too many. One. Oh, it's only 3 people. Oh, it's only 4 people. Oh, it's only 5 people. Those are the ones we've known about so far. You know how many emails I get with these stories that I can't run because the family doesn't want to go public about it? Ask our friend Julie Barrett from Conservative Ladies of Washington about all this. She'll tell you all about it. There have been plenty of people who have been through these fights before. And the Democrats say it's just Republican talking points, just Republican talking points. Here's another one for you. Political violence. Now, a lot of Democrats did stand when they brought up Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk about political violence. But that's only because, do you remember right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Do you remember how the Democrats' tweets usually went? I didn't agree with anything he said, but nobody deserves to die. Why the qualifier? Why the qualifier? Why wasn't it just no political violence, this has gotten out of hand? We need to return to normal. I'm not endorsing what he said, but he didn't deserve to get his head blown off. That's basically what they were all saying. Every single one of them. Every single one. And then President Trump took the situation and made it about religion, which we know the Democrats hate religion.
I'm very proud to say that during my time in office, both the first 4 years and in particular this last year, there has been a tremendous renewal in religion, faith, Christianity, and belief in God. Tremendous renewal. This is especially true among young people, and a big part of that had to do with my great friend, Charlie Kirk, a great guy, great man. So last year, Charlie was violently murdered by an assassin and martyred, really martyred for his beliefs. His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand.
And of course, what happens, people like Candace Owens immediately start attacking Erica Kirk again. As I've said time and time again, Candace Owens is a grifter. She's not a conservative. She has hate in her heart. There's a special place in hell reserved for her because I believe in the Bible. I believe in religion, and I know it says in Exodus. You do not disparage the widow and the orphan. You help the widow and the orphan. We know this. And yet people like her and all the people who won't condemn Candace Owens. I mean, come on, guys. Really? Really? For all this stuff? She's got enough to deal with, and now she has to deal with a documentary coming out about how accusing her of killing her own husband so she could take over Turning Point USA? Crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. And mind you, the Democrats, oh, we love Ukraine. Oh, we love Ukraine. Slava Ukraine, Slava Ukraine. When a Ukrainian comes here, a young girl, to escape the horrors that's going on over there, and then gets murdered on a train by a prolific offender. Democrats didn't even stand up for this.
He slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget there were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal set free to kill in America. Came in through open borders. Mrs. Zaretsky, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina.
The woman's crying her eyes out, and the Democrats don't stand. I'm reminded of Senator Joe Wilson. John Carlson reminded me of his name last night. We were having the panel after our State of the Union event, which was wonderful, and it was so great to see so many of you there. John Carlson reminded me of a guy's name, Joe Wilson. I couldn't remember his name at the time. Joe Wilson stood up when Barack Obama was giving the State of the Union and called him a liar. You lie. You remember that? Condemnation everywhere. Had to go apologize. Lost an election. Lost his re-election over that. Civility out the window. Rashida Tlaib chanting KKK. Ilhan Omar yelling at the president. Civility out the window. Completely gone. Completely gone. I think we don't have a Democrat and Republican Party anymore. I think what we have is everybody who's interested in common sense and common sense solutions and the crazies. I think that's really the difference in this country now. President Trump did a masterclass in exposing the crazies and reminding everybody of the 80-20 issues of why they voted for him in the first place. And the State of the Union, President Trump, is the best one you ever get because his own worst enemy is himself. His own worst enemy is himself. When he says something that detracts or takes him off message. So, I'll tell you this, my friends. I want to know what your favorite part of the State of the Union was because there were so many great moments. I want to know what your favorite part was. And do you think President Trump got his message across? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, looks like tuberculosis is back in style. Tell you what's going on at some local Seattle schools and what we can do to address it. Give you all details when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Saw the story from Como News this morning. Seattle and King County Public Health is concerned because somebody at Rainier Beach High School in Seattle has been diagnosed with active tuberculosis. How'd you get active tuberculosis? Is this something you came from somewhere else which has tuberculosis? Because we have that problem in South Seattle. Is this something with somebody not getting vaccinated against tuberculosis? And for everybody who wants to go running around saying it's a vaccine issue, hey, I got vaccinated against tuberculosis. And isn't that the one where they used to punch you with like 3 holes to see if they turned into blobs or something, and then you have TB? Was that the test we used to take when we were kids? I remember the 3 holes thing. Kevin, did they ever puncture you that way? Do you remember that one?
I don't recall that.
I can't forget that one because they would give you this little card to take home and say, do they look like these little blotches or these? You might have TB. Now, maybe this was an archaic New York form or something like that, but I remember this very distinctly. Oh, no, he's got the 3-hole puncher. He's going to hit me with the 3-hole puncher. I never knew what that was about.
When I hear TB, all I can think about is Doc Holliday going out into the West because of his tuberculosis or his consumption.
Yes. You're my Huckleberry. Yeah. For years, I thought consumption meant he had a drinking problem.
That's what I thought,
I always
too.
thought consumption was like, oh, he's an alcoholic. Nope. That's not what it is. No, it consumes you. He's got the consumption. He's got the umption.
He's a lunger.
Yeah, there you go. But Seattle and King County are freaking out over this. Oh, we have to quarantine all these people, whatever. Okay, little secret for everybody. Take you back to the COVID days, before the dark times, before the empire, when they were talking about herd immunity. Do you know that they have a certain percentage of any school that is allowed to be unvaccinated because herd immunity usually takes care of it? If we had a huge outbreak of tuberculosis at Rainier Beach High School, it might be something to be concerned about. But this is the kind of thing that the media loves to put out there. Every outlet had this one today. Oh, my God, tuberculosis. I remember these stories from when I was a kid. Measles, mumps, rubella, you name it. Always something. I've heard of people having the plague before because they went somewhere or traveled somewhere or who knows what. Yet another thing to keep you scared. Watch the evening news sometime. Watch the evening news. Go between Fox, CNN, MSNBC, go between all of them. Oh, I'm sorry, M-Snow. Go between all of them and watch. The commercials are designed to scare the crap out of you on all the stations. Oh, my God, do I have this disease? Oh, my God, do I have that disease? I have to order that drug that may cause death, artificial insemination, anal leakage. I mean, the side effects sound worse than whatever it's curing. It's all designed to scare the hell out of you. Is what this is really about. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Ben in SeaTac. Ben, what's going on?
Ari, well, what needs to be talked about is what's going on in America right now, and that's the blue state recession. And I don't see how this can affect the national numbers negatively. We have the biggest state, California, getting completely destroyed by Gavin Newsom. San Francisco's real estate, commercial real estate, I'm sure you're aware of, has completely collapsed. They've destroyed their oil industry. Trump's probably going to have to nationalize the oil industry in California because of our national security reasons. Washington State, we know what happened here. We know Bob Ferguson's going to blame all the problems that him and his legislature created on tariffs when it's taxes. Chicago, major real estate has sold for 70 to 95% less.
Yep.
Portland, same thing, 90% drop.
Downtown Seattle, 30% office vacancy rate, and maybe just as bad soon.
In New York City, we already BlackRock said goodbye. Now we have these major cities, major states getting destroyed. I don't see how that can't affect the national numbers negatively when these are the big epicenters.
You're right.
We need to start talking.
No, Ben, you're 100% right. Hang on a second. So anytime we talk about gas prices going down the rest of the country in 35 other states, why aren't they going down in the 15 others? Why? Because who controls those 15 other states? Or at least in those other states, they're not willing to work with Republicans at all, or they don't have any common sense, moderately fiscal, blue dog Democrats. Instead, they're just going off the radical ideology. I can name them offhand. Shall we? Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, New York, Illinois. Need I go on? Michigan. Need I go on? How many more of these states are there like this? You are 100% right. Because here, I could say things are getting better economically, but I always have to put the caveat, not in Washington. Our recession is higher. Our unemployment rate is higher. These are things that are happening in blue states, and one of the reasons you keep losing blue states is because people like Turd Ferguson and all the Democrats go, oh, well, the economy sucks around here because of Trump's tariffs. You want to explain to me why it was getting bad long before Trump was back in office? You want to explain to me why it was getting worse under Joe Biden? They don't want to talk about that at all. And Ben, you're 100% right. If the GOP and anybody who's running for office doesn't cogently explain this to everybody in a 10-second elevator pitch and find a way to say that, they're never going to win that argument.
It's really simple, and it's very frustrating to me because I know that if California was what it should be, just kicking butt, oil industry's kicking butt, everything's kicking butt there like it should be, our numbers would be astronomical. To me, if we lose the affordability argument to the Democrats, then I really don't know what we could do for this party. I mean, it's really easy.
I completely agree with you, Ben. I completely agree with you. And anybody from the GOP who's listening to the show right now better heed Ben's advice. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Going over the Warrior injury law text line, from the 425, their favorite part was when Donald Trump called the Democrats crazy. Yes, that was fun. This one from Dave. Dave is talking about a video that I saw. I think it was the Daily Wire that went out and did it, where they went out and surveyed university students' opinions on the State of the Union, but they did it, I think, yesterday or the day before. So most of the kids said they hated it because Donald Trump's awful. He's terrible. The speech hadn't happened yet. The speech had not happened yet. I'll find that video. I'll share it over on social media because it is amazing. This one from Becky and Enumclaw. There were so many good parts. I wasn't bored for a second. I'm glad all the tributes he did. The last airman that was 100 that stood up, you could just read it in his eyes. It was the thrill of his life. And the Venezuelan uncle that had been released and they surprised the niece. There were so many good parts. Also, the Democrats should be ashamed of themselves if any of them really think about what they did. I would be delighted if one of them flipped. I think it was perfect. I just love our president. Becky, I agree with you. In fact, we're going to be playing some of those great moments later in the show because there were a lot of tear-jerkers. There was a lot of inspiration. I think this was President Trump's best State of the Union and one of the better ones I've heard since I started watching these under George W. Bush. We go back to the Warrior injury law studio line, take a call from Paul in North Seattle. Paul, what's going on?
Hi, Ari. Hey, my favorite part by far, and I think it's the part that would actually transform our whole country and fuel our economy, would just explode. And it was under Trump, kind of didn't really emphasize it a lot. And I'm surprised the media hasn't picked up on it at all. But when he was talking about his tariffs and how he wants to do away with the income tax. Now, I'd be totally fine with tariffs if that's in fact what happened. And nobody talks about it, but I think that's the most amazing thing that I've never heard a president say.
So I was sitting at the State of the Union event last night with Brian Haywood, Brandy Cruz, Nicole from Brandy's show, our friends from Madrona Financial, Brian Evans. We're sitting at this table, right? And on that line, I think Brian Haywood is who I said it to. I turned to Brian, I go, oh my God, wouldn't that be incredible? And he goes, yeah, it really, really would be. And I go, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but that would be incredible. And Brian's like, yeah, it would be. So, I mean, look, people talk about a national sales tax. That's a tax. That's really what the tariffs would be. To replace an income tax, the federal income tax, that would be incredible. But we have to be real about this, Paul, because here's the problem. A lot of times the Democrats here in Washington talk about something like this. Oh, if we pass the income tax, the millionaire tax, which is really an income tax, then we can get rid of all this other money. But we know that the millionaire tax isn't going to stay with the millionaire tax. So my fear is that, okay, well, if some Democrat comes into office, how much more are they going to jack those up? Where now you're like, well, I wish I'd been paying the income taxes instead. But yeah, that was a huge line. I'll give you the last word. Then I don't think so.
I don't think so. I would like to see the whole industry of tax. There's a huge cottage industry now fighting for people that are behind on taxes.
Yeah.
And
well, how about this instead? How about this instead, Paul? How about we do this? How about we look at all the waste, fraud, and abuse and actually cut it? And then maybe we won't need as much money as they think we need. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? You want to weigh in on State of the Union? You give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, what were the Democrats doing during the State of the Union? All the ones who boycotted. It's entertaining. Pretty entertaining. We've got the insane audio for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So I noticed that the mainstream media covered what the Democrats were up to during the State of the Union, but then kind of didn't cover it so much. First of all, what's the ratings magnet? The State of the Union. And then what the Democrats were doing was not great. Really not great. I saw a lot of inflatable frogs. I saw a lot of people dressed in costumes. And the full unhinged craziness was on display. Here's Oregon Senator Ron Wyden, surrounded by inflatable frogs, praising the anti-ICE lunatics and naked bicyclists down in Portland.
We had a virtual town hall meeting a little bit ago, but we talked about the frogs, and boy, they are rocking this town. Let's give them a round of applause.
These are not serious people. These are not serious people at all. All I could talk about was the dumb frogs.
I'm a mother. I am a physician, and I have a flag.
Which you got from a frog, which just handed it to
And
him.
I am the proud representative for Oregon's 3rd Congressional District.
Is something in the water in Oregon? I mean, I know Portland people are so weird they made a TV show out of it. But really? I mean, crazy stuff going on here. Absolutely crazy stuff. You know how you know it's bad? When even CBS is calling you out for your insanity.
We have Major here at the table. I want to bring the conversation back here to our group watching along. Major, you've seen a lot of these, I think, more than any of us. What stood out to you?
Well, look, before the speech, many Republicans said one of the priorities for the president was to make sure Americans after this speech had a sense that the opposition party was off the rails, was crazy, their terminology, not mine. Many of the contrasts the president articulated tonight were to drive that message forward. That not only do I disagree with the opposition party sitting before me in Congress, but I disagree with them so strongly and they with me so much that they can't even applaud basic common sense thing. And that line that you mentioned, that he added to the speech, whether it was ad-libbed or not, the first obligation, American citizens versus illegal aliens, was meant to create a visual moment of perpetual contrast.
Exactly right. In fact, even John Fetterman is calling out his own party. I wonder if John, you know what? I don't want him to defect. I like him where he is. Okay, I think he's good where he is because maybe he can save the Democrat Party. I know some of you are saying, no, Ari, we don't want them to save. No, okay, guys, we need a little opposition, okay? But Senator John Fetterman was on Fox News today calling this out.
You know, the constant kinds of yelling and screaming and holding up signs and for doing all these things. I don't care if it's a Republican or Democrat as a president. Just don't do that. Don't do that. Respect the office, regardless who's in that. And now for me, it's like now when half the people in my party haven't showed up, and then some of them have chosen to just yell and say and scream during all of it. I just don't think that's what we want. And I don't believe, as a Democrat, I think like dancing frogs really moves the ball for us as a party either.
He's 100% right. He's 100% right. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Ron in Ferndale. Ron, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, Ari?
Doing good, man. What's up?
Nothing. I just called to say, I watched that State of the Union last night. I didn't plan on it. I actually turned it off. But when I got home, I turned on my TV. I watched it for about an hour and 45 minutes. I thought it was pretty darn good.
For me, the only part that I really found kind of slow and not entertaining was the end. I'd say the last 20 minutes. I think it went 20 minutes too long. But the majority of it, I had a great time. I really thought it was a lot of fun. But the camera work, like when he called the Somali pirates in Minnesota who are doing all the fraud and it flashes over to Ilhan Omar. I mean, when he's talking about this was great. So in the room, we have a bingo sheet. We got a Daily Wire bingo sheet we were using in the room for our State of the Union last night. And it's added fun when you're with 125 KVI listeners in the room and everybody's like, oh, I got the bingo. Oh, I got the box because Chuck Schumer's all upset over there. I had a lot of fun. Ron, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Pat in Coopville. Pat, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. I wish I could have joined you for last night, but since I couldn't, I watched it on the BBC coverage. And
that must have been fun commentary.
Not bad. But I'd heard hosts saying earlier in the day that they thought that Trump should follow the be brief, be brilliant, be gone philosophy of a quick message, but 2 hours was just fine. I wanted more. I thought it was great.
I liked it a lot.
I loved the awarding of the medals and seeing the patriotic Americans up there just really made me feel good.
I agree. And I think he picked just the right people to talk about American exceptionalism, people who did amazing things. In fact, in the 5 o'clock hour today, we're going to talk about all the American heroes because that was one of my favorite parts, too. I got a little teary-eyed in one or two parts, and I've never had that happen at the State of the Union before.
Me too.
Right. Not because of what Trump was necessarily saying, but because of the stories in front of him. I mean, that was an emotional roller coaster of the people in the room, and that was really well thought out, don't you think?
The Chinook helicopter pilot with 4 bullet wounds in the leg standing a month later.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
The little girl. Oh my God. It's too much. It's too much to think about. Pat, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Got about a minute left. For the last quick minute we have, we go to George in Kenmore. George, what's going on?
Hey, yeah, as I was a Navy search and rescue pilot, I felt for those 3, the Coast Guard rescue crewmen.
Yep.
And 146 rescues and the girl. And the helicopter pilot with the Chinook, because I flew the other Boeing helicopter. And then, of course, the Navy pilot, he's gone from Bronze Star to Navy Cross to Medal of Honor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Kelly was even clapping. And they did have a Navy SEAL representative sitting next to Kelly, probably to keep him in line. But here's the thing too. When we all called for Stop the Millionaire Tax, when they collected our numbers and then reverse spammed us to our congressional district town halls. They had District 1 had a town hall and they called me. I didn't subscribe to it.
Fascinating.
But,
well, when you give your email to the legislature, things like that may happen because they can mine the information. All the information's public. But if you get emails, forward them to me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. George, make sure you're listening at 5 o'clock where we talk about our American heroes. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one from 12th Man for Life, who was there last night at our Stake of the Union event. He said it was definitely better watching the Stake of the Union instead of on my couch. I loved all the awards given out to the brave and seeing the left just look pathetic. I agree. And it's always more fun doing that with your friends. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including the latest woke insanity. Apparently, the U.S. Olympic hockey team, not patriotic, made themselves look bad, according to the Democrats. Yeah, they've lost their minds. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. According to the Post-Millennial, Democrats in Minnesota have accused U.S. men's hockey team, which won the gold in the 2026 Winter Olympics, of squandering goodwill, that's a direct quote, by meeting with President Donald Trump at the White House. I don't know how many times I have to say this. If Barack Obama had invited me to the White House, I would have gone. If Joe Biden had invited me to the White House, I would have gone. If Donald Trump invited me to the White House, I did go. When you get invited by the leader of the free world, when you get invited by the President of the United States, you go. Also, their timing's never that convenient. It's usually like, can you be here tomorrow? Can you be here in 6 hours? Can you? You go. Even if you disagree with the person, you get an opportunity to have an audience possibly with that person for something you believe in. Why would you give up that opportunity? Why would you do that? Also, something else, every winning team gets to go to the White House. The Seahawks, hey, when's their invitation coming, by the way? They get a little distracted by State of the Union. I still haven't seen an invitation for the Seahawks. Minnesota Party Secretary, Democratic Party Secretary Sari Everett wrote, these guys are going to throw away all the goodwill they got when they won the gold for a few minutes with an accused pedophile. Gross. Really? This is the direction you're going in? Democratic Minnesota State Senator Erin May Quaid reposted a post on Blue Sky from writer and columnist Tressie McMillan Cottom, who wrote, henceforth I will be describing the way the U.S. men's hockey spectacularly squandered goodwill, brand recognition, and fan loyalty as pulled a target. They pulled a target. What are you talking about? Target flushed their brand down the toilet with the woke stuff. You want to mention Budweiser next and really defeat your own purpose? Sure, let's go with that. The team met with Trump in the Oval Office on Tuesday. I did like this, that they were playing Freebird over the speakers at the White House while they're walking around looking at all the stuff at the White House. That was kind of entertaining. Also, I love that they gave the goalie the Freedom Medal last night. That was great. That was a lot of fun to watch. The whole thing was a lot of fun to watch, and it really set the tone for the entire State of the Union. I mean, it was really just a lot of fun to watch, and we're asking you guys what your favorite part or least favorite part of the State of the Union was last night. Becky in Enumclaw says over on the text line, I have to say I really appreciated John Fetterman this last year. I never thought I would feel that way about him, but he has really turned out to be an asset. He's quite different than I thought he would be. Yeah. Pam says, Pam from Lake Stevens. By the way, Pam, great to meet you last night at State of the Union. Put a face to the caller and the name. She said, particularly telling how unprofessional, rude behavior on part of the opposition party. Yeah, exactly right. This one here from Ray. Ari, did you notice that our supposed moderate blue dog Democrat, Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, didn't stand for Americans? Instead, she sat to support illegal aliens. I called her office to ask why she supported the illegals, and the secretary pretty much had no comment. That's from Ray in Yelm. Yeah, 100%. I didn't notice her at the thing, but I did notice the Democrats that were missing. Patty Murray wasn't there. Didn't see a Pramila Jayapal. This one here also, the New York Times, according to the Post-Millennial, had the audacity to crap all over the Olympic gold medal winning United States men's hockey team. That's right, the Times took aim at Team USA, all because the men took a call from President Donald Trump and accepted his invitation to be his guest at the State of the Union. Writing for the Times, Jerry Brewer said that while at first Team USA win felt great and brought people together, that it was reminiscent of the miracle on ice when the U.S. team beat the Russian team. Quote, by the next day, it didn't. The only thing that changed was that FBI Director Kash Patel was there to celebrate with the team in Italy, too, and the team was stoked when they took the call from Trump. Brewer wrote, in normal times, this would be an obligatory celebration for a championship team, but this isn't neutral climate. This isn't a neutral president. And in a nation this polarized, the proximity carries weight, whether the players are being intentional or merely naive. Okay, I just want to make sure I got this right. So you're saying normally going to a partisan office is neutral. I just want to make sure I got that right. We're in a political world, but going to a partisan office is neutral, and this isn't a neutral president. You have my name for me, the last neutral president? I'll ask for one. George Washington wasn't neutral. Give me a neutral president. Can anybody think of one? A single one. I'd play the Jeopardy theme song, but I don't have it loaded up in the queue here.
Don't we pretty much have a two-party system here?
Yeah, pretty sure we do. Yeah.
I think that's
kind of political, not really going to change anytime soon. Yeah. And then he says, Americans no longer experience these rituals in the same way, and it may never again. Athletes would be wise to recognize that, and this climate celebration is easily repurposed into political capital. You mean like how the left loved to say that the reason the women's hockey team wasn't going to the White House was because it was political, when really they had prior obligations because they missed a month of school and they couldn't miss more, and they're going to schedule a visit for later? But the left was loving politicizing this. In fact, the right was also politicizing this. Oh, those woke girls aren't going. No, it was a scheduling issue. I said it was a missed opportunity. I'm glad they're actually going, and I'm glad I didn't say anything dumb, because women's hockey is trying to become a bigger thing. We have a new expansion team here in Seattle, and if you want to become a bigger thing, what's the loudest megaphone you have in the U.S., in the world right now? President Donald Trump talking about women's hockey. Let's remind her that a women's hockey player is the one who had 2 boys that won the gold. We all know this. She raised her sons to be hockey because she loved hockey. She was an Olympian too. We all know this, right? We're all following all this. And I got to say, I'm going to stick up for women's hockey all the time, not women's basketball. That's just not fun to watch. Women's hockey, I watched a torrent game, and I kind of enjoyed it. I went back and watched the highlights of the women's hockey team in the Olympics beating the Canadians. It's always fun to watch the Canadians be beat. And I don't even like hockey, and I was actually enjoying this. What better way to advocate for the sport than go to the White House? This is one of the worst takes ever. Oh, the New York Times. The New York Times. This is what they're doing nowadays with their ink. After complaining that the country isn't normal anymore because of Trump, Brewer lays into the players, saying they lack a shrewd political instinct. Okay, not to demean our sports players, but guys who get bashed in the head all the time with hockey sticks, I'm not expecting them to have a good political instinct, and you are the one politicizing this. Says this caused them to screw up and show respect for the president and his office and to bask in the nationalist, patriotic glow of winning for their country. Brewer said they narrowed their moment, and some of the goodwill has diminished. Yeah, we'll see how many Jewish kids dress up as Team USA for Purim next week, because I think that's what's going to happen.
The stupid thing about this, too, is that there's plenty of other athletes who, are on the other side,
Yes.
right? So what's the problem?
Well, they didn't win gold medals.
Well, there you go. That's probably
what it is. A lot of those ones lost. Actually, there was the girl, the figure skater, I think. And she's on the other side, but she didn't make it about politics. She made it about winning the gold. Got to respect her for that. Exactly. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, including the latest insanity on the Democrats' income tax. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. We're giving away 2 tickets to see Santana and the Doobie Brothers, so make sure you're listening for your chance to text us that keyword. But before we get to any of that, so last night, I'm coming down off the event high, I call it, right? You have a great event. We had the State of the Union. We had 125 KVI listeners pack the ballroom. I don't know if I call it a ballroom. The big room at the Daniels Broiler in Bellevue. They were such great hosts. It was great. The food looked amazing. I had my kosher steak, so I'm happy. One listener brought me an old-fashioned. Another listener brought me an old-fashioned. A sponsor brought me an old-fashioned. Good thing I wasn't on air during that time, but it was great. Thank you so much. And then I finally get home after all this. And when I get home, I should be going to sleep because I had a 7:30 a.m. event this morning. Yes, there's not many people I will go to a 7:30 a.m. event for, but John Braun is looking to run for Congress, and he's looking to take down Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, and I thought that was an important cause, and I made sure to be there. Some people were coming up to me to talk to me, and I'm like, guys, I love you. Would love to talk. I don't drink coffee, but I need coffee really bad right now because I'm barely awake right now. So I apologize. But I get home last night, and I go on my computer, and I'm doom scrolling. I don't know why. I just need the adrenaline out of my system. And I see a post from Representative Travis Couture. Let me preface this by what's happening. We had Representative Josh Penner on the show the other day. Him and Representative Travis Couture negotiated into House Bill 2253 that there was going to be fraud prevention, especially with regards to the Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services. And then he writes this. Representative Penner and myself had negotiated some fraud prevention measures into a bill about child care licensing. The bill passed. And now I learned today that Democrat Senator Claire Wilson has an amendment to literally strip out every single bit of it. Aside from how professionally bad that is, why would Democrats seek to erase fraud prevention? The Democrats are so slimy, sneaky, and conniving in the legislature. Let me explain to you what happened here. They wanted a win. So now they get to say, oh, well, we had a bipartisan bill. How come you're not supporting the bipartisan bill? We voted on this. It even has Republican support. And then if the Republicans don't vote on it in the Senate, it passed with bipartisan support in the House. It's a bipartisan bill. The only reason Republicans voted for this is because it had the anti-fraud provisions in the bill. According to the Senate committee amendment, the changes would strike several provisions added to strengthen oversight, including requiring subsidy-accepting child care providers to use an electronic attendance system, capturing daily check-in and check-out times verified by a parent or guardian's electronic signature or biometric identifier. The bill also removed language requiring license revocation if a provider exceeds license capacity. Additionally, the revisions strike permanent disqualified provisions for providers found to have committed child care subsidy fraud and remove immediate termination language tied to high-potency synthetic opioids or illicit substances in a child care home. This is all common sense stuff. None of this should be political at all. So why is it getting rid of what Republicans called the financial firewall? Probably because some activists found out about this and said, no way, no way. Or the Democrats are more than happy to let the fraud continue. You know, Republicans are really missing an opportunity here right now for a marketing campaign. Here's what it should be. Democrats want to pass the income tax so they could pay for trans surgeries for convicted felons. That's it. And then you put up $4.3 million spent on that. That's one graphic, right? Just put that on up there. Here's another one for you. Democrats want to pass an income tax on you so they could pay for self-service stations for men who want to get better acquainted with each other under their art gallery grants. Several $1,000s. That's just a series of these. Remember how fun Doge was when you found out where all the waste was going, and then how tragic it was when you realized how bad it actually was? You need a series of those posts if you want to win. And you want to say this is because of out-of-control spending. How do I know it's because of out-of-control spending? Because the Democrats have unveiled their supplemental budget. Now, they claim, according to them, we're in a budget crisis, and we don't have enough money. That's why they need to tax all of us. But now they're adding another $2 billion in spending. This is like saying, well, you know, I maxed out that credit card. Hey, can I get another one? Hey, American Express, can I get another credit card with a bigger line on it? Can I do that? This isn't fixing the situation. Then they blame the minuscule cuts that they make on Republicans and Donald Trump. That's what they do. The minuscule cuts. And then they fund crazier things like this. The proposal increases spending by roughly $2 billion, relies on nearly $2 billion in new taxing over the next 4 years, and spends more than projected revenue. It also withdraws approximately $880 million from the rainy day fund, shifts money across accounts, and also raids pension funds. This is what the new spending does. Don't believe me? Go look it up. It's all right there. They aren't hiding this. They're just counting on you not actually reading any of this legislation whatsoever. It's going to be raiding the law enforcement officers and firefighters retirement system plan, LOF1, I believe that's how you pronounce it, LEOFF1, a pension system, by redirecting funds to help balance the budget rather than leaving them dedicated to retirees and public safety obligations because they were too successful. Oh, they managed it too efficiently and did too well for their members. And since you guys did a terrible job with the teachers' pension plans and other pension plans, you are raiding this pension plan. This is how bad the Democrats' budget is. And they want to tax you. And what's worse about it is that this income tax isn't going into effect until after Bob Ferguson runs for a second term. It's done intentionally, but they put an emergency clause on it so you can't go to referendum, which is easier than an initiative. This is the insanity. Am I predicting the future? Absolutely. Would you like to know why? Because I'm pretty darn good at it by now. Do you remember last year Bob Ferguson said, oh, I'm doing all this funding for more police officers because we have so few police officers. We need more police officers. And I called BS on that right away. And I said, the guy who has prosecuted police officers 4 times, the guy who enforced firing them because of COVID mandates, the guy who hates law enforcement and was completely silent during the anti-cop summer of love does not want more police officers. That bill, that tax, what they did was basically giving permission for counties to raise property taxes to spend on whatever they wanted. And if they spend it on police officers, great. But if they spend it on laser hair removal for trans inmates or anything else stupid like that, that's fine too. According to the Washington State Standard, hang on, let me go to my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. Let's see. Do I have the Daily Wire? I have Fox News, Newsmax, Daily Caller. Nope, I do not have the Washington State Standard in here. Headline: no cops hired so far with Washington's new $100 million grant program. Subheadline: excerpt. Governor Bob Ferguson pushed hard for the money to boost police staffing. The rollout has been bumpy. Oh, isn't that a nice way of saying it? Money from Washington's new $100 million program, aka tax, to boost police hiring has yet to reach cities and counties. Local officials have been frustrated with the rollout of the grants championed by Governor Bob Ferguson to address Washington's status as dead last in the nation in police staffing per capita. They complain it's been slow and rife with technical issues. So, great, we got no police officers out of this tax you said was to hire police officers. None at all. Bonkers crazy. So what, you think any of this money is going to address anything? Yeah, yesterday, everybody testifying on the income tax. Oh, we need it for the schools and we need it for the children because Trump is so evil and our budget cuts. We spend more per student than most states in the United States, and we don't have one of the highest populations. And what do we have to show for it? Grades are going down and down and down and down. And they say, oh, it's all because we lost federal funding. Federal funding is tied to the students. You lost the students because of the insanity you're teaching in the schools, so people pulled their kids out. In addition to that, people are moving out of state. That's why you're losing the money. And rather than consolidate schools, rather than close some schools, rather than address the curriculum imbalance, we're just going to make it worse and worse and worse. 2 years. 2 years you kept those kids out of the classroom during COVID. 2 years. And did nothing to make it up. Add an extra hour per day for the schools, perhaps? Maybe something like that, something common sense? Nope, not going to do it because teachers don't want to work more. Well, it's the teachers who got to sit on their butts for 2 years, as far as I'm concerned. Oh, Ari, you have no idea how hard Zoom school was. You could have literally recorded the same lesson and pushed play time and time again while you Netflixed and chilled. Yes, I know exactly what that means. I know what was going on, and the teachers' unions are saying, we're not going back, we're not going back, we're not going back, but did nothing to make up what they were doing for the schools. In fact, they made it worse by putting in more of this DEI nonsense instead of the math, history, science, shop class, whatever it was. You want more of my money now? Somebody industrious, somebody ambitious should just go through the budget and take all this insanity and just keep making logos. They want to tax you, make memes. They want to tax you, but they want to spend it on this. They want to tax you, but they want to spend it on this. That's how you win public opinion. That's how you do it. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from the Grumpy Bear in Lakewood. Grumpy Bear, what's going on, man?
I got a couple of things for you, Ari.
Yeah.
One, Democrats like illegal, let's call them, they're illegal immigrants, aliens, whatever you want to call them,
yep.
Undocumented, because they're cheap labor and they will give them votes every time they want to get reelected.
Yes.
That's my opinion on that one. Now, second thing is the TB time test that you were talking about a little while ago.
Yes.
I remember having those in school myself.
Oh, I was right. It was TB, wasn't it?
It was a TB time test.
Yeah.
And that test is to see if you have been exposed to tuberculosis.
Ah.
The test for tuberculosis is a chest X-ray.
I got you. Thank you for that clarification. I am not a doctor. I think I played one in a play one time, but he wasn't a very good doctor. So
I used to be an EMS.
I appreciate it. I got you.
I've been exposed to tuberculosis so many times, I'm surprised I didn't come up positive for it.
Appreciate the call, Grumpy Bear. Appreciate the education. Appreciate you're still alive and you didn't get the disease, man.
One more thing about tuberculosis.
Yeah.
There are countries in the world, I think South and Central America, some countries in Africa, and I believe Korea, tuberculosis is endemic to the countries.
Yes. Yeah, so they're worried about you traveling and then being exposed to it. Got you. Thank you for the distinction.
And that's where I've been.
Yeah.
Korea. I've been to Korea.
Thank you for the call, Grumpy Bear. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Rico over on the Warrior Injury Law studio line says, I mispronounced it. He says it's just left one, not Leoff or whatever I said before. So left one. Putting it in the memory bank. Thank you there. Do appreciate it. This one here from the 520, Ari, apparently the state supplemental budget instructs the State Board of Community and Technical Colleges to identify a possible college to close as a way to save money. Evergreen State University. I'm not saying that because they're the wokest. I'm saying it because they have no students anymore. There's almost nobody that goes to that school anymore. This one here from Elaine. Can J.D. Vance do something about Washington fraud? Okay. Here's my problem with this fraud announcement last night. I loved when President Trump called Ilhan Omar a Somali pirate. I love that. It was funny. It was great. But how many investigations has this administration initiated that haven't come to anything? Isn't University of Washington still under investigation? Aren't all these different school districts around here? I'm wondering if it was a lot of, hey, we're going to do this and we want to do this and maybe we'll get around to it, or maybe here's your chance to clean up your act before we get around to it. I'm a little disappointed. I hope J.D. Vance goes after the fraud in Washington. And if he does, he will find me a willing partner. I will give him everything I have on the fraud. I'll give him everything. I want him to investigate it. And personally, I think this was President Trump giving J.D. Vance a job like Joe Biden did with Kamala Harris on the border, trying to make her look good if she wanted to run for office. Unfortunately, Kamala Harris, well, The border czar had other plans for the border, and I think J.D. Vance can do a good job, but are they going to let him do a good job? Is he going to be able to do it with the tools that he has? Or is this something that's said at the State of the Union we never hear about again, because that happens all the time? I hope that J.D. Vance does exactly what we all want him to do. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Bennett the Protester. Bennett, what's going on, man?
All right, third time's the charm. Let's see if we can get through this, because they're talking about the income tax again. So, okay, this only takes 20 seconds, but it does take 20 seconds. I want to explain. The page that you go to register pro or con, and where you can download the Excel thing with the
I got to stop you. Bennett. You come in hot, and nobody knows what you're talking about if they weren't listening yesterday. So stop. Let me explain. Then you can go on your rant, okay? So, okay, I'm going to explain this. Then you can do your little rant, okay? Here we go again. So, 2 days ago, what happened was people were registering for the past couple of weeks against the income tax / millionaire's tax, whatever you want to call it. And what happens is, all of a sudden, you start seeing all these names from SEIU, and you start seeing all these names from the Washington Education Association. You even see Bob Ferguson and a few other elected officials, including people who sponsored the bill. And you go, well, for sure, they're not testifying against this. Who is testifying against this? Now, occasionally, you get people who want to do something funny, but it looked like a concerted effort to try and do this. So immediately, the Northwest Progressive Institute says, see, it's fraudulent. And then the Seattle Times picks it up. And then GeekWire picks it up. And today I saw all the TV stations were picking it up as well. Now, mind you, our friends over at Let's Go Washington said we verified, I believe it was 86% of these signatures. I don't know why it's Let's Go Washington's job. They're not the ones spearheading this in any way, shape, or form, but they are the ones who are actively trying to stop it, along with me and Brandy and Jonathan Cho and the Washington Policy Institute, and anybody who doesn't want an income tax. So they're claiming fraud because it is the least popular bill in state history with these numbers. Go, Bennett.
Okay, but here's something that people can check themselves. If you download the data and you sort it by the names for pro and the names for con, the names for con, 110,000 entries, 91,000 distinct names, that's 17% duplicates. The names for pro, 10,000 distinct entries, 10,000 pro, 9,000 distinct names in that set. That's 10% duplicates. And the reason I'm mentioning Excel is I'm not going to walk through people the steps on how to do it. I'm just telling people this is something, people listening right now, you can download it and do this yourselves if you want to. All the other analysis is like you kind of have to take their word for it. It involves tools the average person doesn't have on their computer. This is something you can check with your own eyes. And 17% duplicates in one set versus 10% in another, statistically, the likelihood of that happening organically is basically zero.
So
and
wait
I don't
a second.
see any way to interpret.
Wait a second. What you're saying is that we need a way to verify the identity of the people who are signing in to testify on bills. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, I'm not changing the subject. I don't want to hear the word Biden.
Hang on. Bennett, I think we're in agreement on this. You're saying we need a way to verify the identity of people testifying. Now, Bennett, I'll put something else to you just before we let you go. I was a little disappointed yesterday where the Democrats said they don't really pay attention to public comment. Is that just on this bill, or is that on every bill? Because that should make somebody like you equally as mad as somebody like me. If they're not paying attention, they're just doing what they want, and they don't care what any of us think on any bill. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I would say if you have a website where anybody can register pro and con, and one side is running a campaign to drive people and go and register, I mean, you should look at a poll instead of doing that. The thing is, for the resources you spent on driving people to this page to register
what money was spent? What money was spent?
Just the amount of time.
It took me 30 seconds to put up a social media post. 30 seconds to put one up. So what you're saying, just want to make sure I got this right. I don't want to put words in your mouth. We need a way to verify the identification of everybody who signs in for public comment so the system is more accurate. Would that be correct?
No, not necessarily. I'm saying you should do a poll instead of doing a public.
I agree with you. We should do polling, but this is what we have available because they don't spend money on polls like this. Bennett, appreciate you being a good sport. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to talk about, including an insane story of a girl who was assaulted in a school locker room for supporting President Trump and ICE. And she's in middle school. I'll give you all details when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Apparently, kids in our area are learning about violence in school if they don't take a certain political position. Parents who are listening with kids in the car, you may want to earmuff it if you're worried what they might pick up from this story. Just giving you the heads up, giving you the warning. A Washington middle school girl was brutally beaten by two other students in a locker room earlier in February over her alleged support for President Donald Trump and ICE. This comes after a social media post the girl's boyfriend made saying that one of his life paths would be to become an ICE agent. Can we stop here for a second? So I went to the Turning Point USA convention, the America Fest, And all the law enforcement branches were recruiting at America Fest. It was like Seafair, but for federal agencies. Secret Service was there, ICE was there, Border Patrol was there, you name it, they were all there. And then when I heard about their incentives and when I heard about their benefits, because my daughter was curious and she went over to look, and holy cow, there's some good money to be made there. That's a kid who's got his act together. According to Brandy Cruz over at Undivided, the 13-year-old girl's boyfriend had posted some TikToks in which one of them said, he said, plan A, marry a nice girl, have kids, get rich. That's nice. Isn't that the American dream? And then the other one, he said, plan B, become an ICE agent. Okay. The 13-year-old girl was approached by two other girls in a locker room at Lucille Umberger Middle School in Burlington, Washington. The girl and her mother told Cruz that the two students demanded to know whether she supports Donald Trump and ICE, and when she tells them it's none of her business, they violently assaulted her. I don't know if you've seen the video of this. It is vicious. She's being punched in the head by the other two students as they held her hair as an, they were grabbing her hair, handfuls of her hair, probably lost some hair over this, and attempted to drag her to the ground. The two attacking students were reportedly Hispanic while the victim was white. The video has reportedly been widely circulated throughout the school by students and staff, and it wasn't until 5 days later that the principal contacted the girl's mother. Number one, every single teacher in this school who forwarded that video, you are a mandated reporter. Now, if you forwarded it to the principal, if you forwarded it to the authorities, that's fine. You did your job. If not, and you're just circulating this thing around in like your teacher groups, like, holy cow, look what happened today. Something's really, really wrong. Really, really wrong. Oh, and illegal. The Burlington chief of police told Undivided, we do have an active case on this incident and are working through all the details. And it's an active case involving juveniles. There's not a lot I can release beyond that. The mom said that the principal told her the school is working on a safety plan and that the police want the school to extend the suspension of the girls who attacked until a safety plan for all victims is in place. Hang on. You want to let these kids come back to school when that's on video? No way. No way. If they are this way in middle school, how will they be when they're in high school? A safety plan. Give me a break. You know what a safety plan means? The principal calls the parents into the school and says, all right, here's our plan. Here's our plan. They're not going to have any classes together, and they're not going to see each other, but we're going to let these other two kids back in the building because everybody deserves an education. And the parents go, what about lunch? Oh, we're going to have hall monitors, and we're going to have a lunchtime monitor and a recess monitor, and they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Oh, really? Yeah, would you agree to that? No, I would yank my kids out of that school so fast it'll make their heads spin. If they haven't pulled the kid already, there's a massive, massive problem there. I know a lot of you are saying, Ari, why should they pull the kid and the other students get to go back? I'll tell you why, because it took 5 days for anybody to report this. 5 days. That means the faculty doesn't care about what happened. That means the faculty would rather get the clicks or whatever it is, or just the laughs in a sick way off this than actually deal with it. By the way, that's not the only horrible story. And if you haven't earmuffed the kids yet, this one's worse. This one, according to Fox 13, an Edmonds, Washington paraeducator has been charged with raping a student he tutored for several years, beginning when she was just 11 years old. Predators go where there is prey. Now I want you to imagine for a second that the Democrats' bill of stalling on the time you had to inform parents was active, and they could have hidden this longer from parents. King County prosecutors have charged 47-year-old Roberto Rodriguez with first, second, and third-degree child rape and communication with a minor for immoral purposes. Apparently, this was going on for 5 years. 5 years. Oh, it gets worse. The victim is reportedly a deaf girl who uses sign language and text to communicate and has struggled to use her hearing implant. He was a paraeducator at her school beginning her kindergarten year, and by the time she was 7, the girl's parents hired Rodriguez for private tutoring twice a week. I'm not going to read the rest of this article because that's a little bit too much for me. This is absolutely terrifying. Terrifying that this could happen. If these charges are found to be accurate and this person is convicted, I hope they never see daylight again. But don't forget, it was the Democrats in the Washington State Legislature who wanted to reduce penalties for sex offenders. Like this guy. reduce penalties for them. As I said earlier in the show, we're talking about the difference between common sense and crazy. That's what you saw on display at the State of the Union last night. I wonder if Donald Trump had said, we want to imprison all the sex offenders, keep them behind bars, and if you agree with me, stand up and applaud, and the Democrats would have stayed seated? Stayed seated because the ones here are releasing these sex offenders from McNeil Island, our very own Alcatraz for pedos. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. It looks like our Attorney General is overstepping again. What he wants to impose on you is crazy. And also that bill about allowing foreigners to become cops looks like it's moving forward. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, a lot of bad bills are dead, but a lot of other bad bills are moving ahead in the Washington State Legislature, including one to allow non-citizens to become law enforcement officers. I kid you not. Joining us now to discuss on the Warrior Injury Law Studio Line, investigative journalist for the Center Square, TJ Martinell. Thanks so much for being with us today.
All right, good to be back on again.
So let's start from the top on this. They have a bill to make non-citizens law enforcement officers. Are they that desperate to get cops, or they're that desperate to hire people who aren't citizens?
I mean, that's the big question is, to what extent have they been trying to hire actual citizens in this state? And they, one of the arguments is we're like 51st in the country when it comes to number of officers. And my question is, so what efforts have you taken to try to change that before you're going to turn to people whose allegiance is to a foreign government and you want them enforcing our domestic laws?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's crazy.
It really, there's so many things that could go. I think it was Rep. Brian Burnett from Wenatchee. When they were voting on it in the Community Safety Committee, he said, what if they have connections to an extremist group? And for someone who says, well, that wouldn't happen, they bet, it goes, well, how would you even know? And if you were a foreign government with malicious intentions for America, what better way to get your claws into it than sending, foreign agents out there to get, work eligibility in the state and then becoming law enforcement officers and prosecutors. And also that means that they could potentially use law enforcement to, make sure that certain laws aren't enforced against certain peoples who are also working with them. I mean, the ways that this bill could be misused is pretty profound.
Let me give you the nightmare scenario for a second for our listeners. Imagine this. Now, if somebody says, oh, they're just doing desk jobs. Okay. Well, guess what? They get alerts. Law enforcement gets alerts about terrorist activity, about be on the lookout for this, be on the lookout for that. What if they issue one to send everybody to one place? Or better yet, what if they get one and then they tell whoever they're working for, hey, they're going to be on the south side. You should go do something on the north side. I mean, this is basic stuff. And we know that we've had people who are non-citizens come to this country with nefarious intent. This just seems like a recipe for disaster.
Well, for people who haven't seen the movie The Departed that came out 20 years ago, Matt Damon goes and becomes a cop, and he's part of the Irish mafia operating out of Boston. And so he's feeding them information about stuff and tipping them off about things and giving them, trying to figure out who's trying to infiltrate the organized crime. And so how these people could be getting access to all sorts of information. I think the other crazy part is they had to come up with a policy for allowing them to carry firearms on the job because foreign nationals are not allowed to own firearms in this state or in the country. So they're like, oh, well, it's legal for them to carry while they're on duty, but not when they're off duty. Well, why?
Yeah.
It's like saying somebody who is legally not allowed to have a firearm because they committed a crime, we're going to let them become a cop or something like that. And the other issue is the work eligibility. Well, what kind of work are they here for? If they're working in the tech sector or in some other sector, what kind of eligibility, what types of careers or jobs are they working that they would want to go into law enforcement? And also it goes back to the fact that their highest priority politically, their top allegiance is to a foreign nation, not to the United States Constitution or the state of Washington's Constitution. So you're going to put them on the street, give them a badge and a gun, and tell them that they get to potentially arrest, detain, and book U.S. citizens. How that's not going to turn into some sort of legal quagmire, I don't know. It's really amazing that they are doing this, because also the big question is, where does it go from there?
Right. And think about this for a second. Aren't the Democrats the ones who are pushing forward legislation to restrict who can be a sheriff because they want them to have the appropriate credentials? But here, somebody who's not even a citizen of the United States can have a gun and a badge and be out on the streets enforcing the law. Doesn't that strike you as a little bit of a hypocritical double standard?
Well, also, wasn't there a bill that would have prohibited them from hiring ICE agents? Like anyone who worked for ICE? It's like, so a U.S. citizen cannot get a job because of prior employment at a federal agency, but you're going to potentially allow someone who's acting as a spy, conducting espionage on U.S. soil for foreign government. You want to let them become officers. So So foreign nationals, yes. U.S. citizens who worked for the federal government, no. I know the bill didn't advance, but it is reflecting the priorities.
Here's something else that's crazy about it. I saw several reports yesterday that not a single cop has been hired after Bob Ferguson promised last year that he was going to raise all these taxes or allow all these municipalities to raise their own property taxes, and it was going to allow all this money to hire new cops, and not a single one was hired. And we knew this at the time because we said the money that is being allocated from property taxes can be used for anything. So why won't these money-hungry bastards over at these different municipalities, why won't they use it for their own pet priorities rather than hiring cops?
Well, and that's the question is, it goes back to what have they done to try to attract officers? Because other states aren't having these problems. So what is and also the fact that they can't hire people, one would argue that's a problem for them to figure out. And if they can't figure it out, then clearly the leadership of that agency or within state government needs to change. Because, what kind of a message does the state and local government send to people who want to become police officers? Is it a welcoming one saying, we see your role as important? Or do they see them as political adversaries or basically people who are fundamentally not performing a legitimate function like we see with ICE, where people are acting like they're just kidnapping random people off the street rather than trying to enforce federal laws?
Crazy stuff. In the last few minutes, we have with TJ Martinell, investigative journalist for the Center Square. So you are one of the few people, and your outlet is one of the few outlets, that's talking about this massive overreach of the Attorney General's office with his powers that he wants to use for investigating. So hang on, let me just make sure I got this right. He wants to be able to conceal the identity of his people, but reveal the identity of all the ICE agents. On top of that, he wants this basically no warrants, no searches, no nothing, no permission for any of this kind of stuff for his guys, and go after anybody he wants, but he doesn't want ICE to execute no warrant raids. I just want to make sure I'm getting that right. Is that about right?
That's about the size of it.
Crazy stuff. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, this should be of concern to everyone in the state because it could be used against anyone, and it's effectively creating what I would call a private records act, where it allows him to obtain any records that he can demonstrate to a court, I suppose, that he can that he wants for allegedly violating certain laws in the state and U.S. Constitution. But it can apply to either a business, it can apply to a private citizen, it can apply to pretty much anybody. And there's really not a lot of due process. You have to sue the state in order to prevent this from occurring, and they don't need a warrant. And also, you're the one who has to turn over the records to them. They don't have to go to your house and actually do the work themselves. You're expected to turn everything over or face potential court sanctions. So this is definitely, I think this would be getting more traction as a bill if the income tax proposal wasn't, consuming a lot of attention.
Absolutely crazy. And that's why we're glad we have people like TJ Martinell to cover it all for us, because the Center Square is one of the only outlets that I trust that is there every single day. In fact, it's one of the only outlets that's there every single day in the Washington State Legislature. TJ, appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. When you hear music that isn't 80s arena rock, that means it is time for your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today we are giving away two tickets to see Santana and the Doobie Brothers, August 6th at White River Amphitheater. Now, all you have to do is text the word I give you to the number I give you. Not your name, not your email address, not your phone number, not anything else, just the word itself. And you will be entered in today's contest. Today's word is guitar, as in like, what's in the case? A guitar. Just like in Desperado. Your word is guitar. Text the word guitar, G-U-I-T-A-R, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And you will be entered for your chance to win two tickets to see Santana and the Doobie Brothers, August 6th at the White River Amphitheater. Make sure you do it now. Don't do it more than once either, or you automatically disqualify yourself.
You know, you got a knack for saying what the word is and then saying something else than what is going on. So, like, if I say, like, I'm playing Let's Groove tonight and the word is groove, you're like groove, like that thing that's sometimes in a slab of concrete. And you're like, or like the song that's playing, you're like, guitar, like what's in the case, or like what Santana is known
playing.
for.
I could do that too. This is more fun. My brain works on a very different level where it's just free word association. Oh, guitar. Oh, I think that movie Desperado, where all of a sudden he's going to bring guns out of the guitar case and start blowing everybody away. That's what I think of. I don't know what you think of. Oh, Santana, he plays a guitar. Sure. Okay, that's the direction you want to go in? Fine, we'll do that. All right. Then play Maria Maria. And then, like the sounds of the guitar. Oh, wait, that might confuse people too, because then they're going to type in guitar and not guitar. And then you're going to have problems.
I shouldn't have said anything.
Played by Carlos Santana. Okay, we all know it. I don't need to sing on the radio. But yes, you're right. I do too much free word association. I'll try to be better about that. Meanwhile, switching gears here, this was an odd story this morning. It was all over all the networks. The FBI executed multiple search warrants on Wednesday at the Los Angeles Unified School District's headquarters and the home of its top official, Superintendent Alberto Carvalho. The raids are part of an ongoing investigation, but that's about all we know. We don't know what they're doing there. Does he have top secret documents locked away in the school? Is that what it is, or is something else going on here? The FBI and the Department of Justice confirmed to Fox 11 that federal agents served court-authorized warrants at his private residence in San Pedro and the main office of the school district in Los Angeles. Video footage and images captured federal vehicles parked outside these two locations. FBI agents were seen entering the properties and exiting with boxes of unknown items. Specific details of the investigation have not yet been released. The affidavit is currently under seal, too. What do you think they're after? Okay, let's do guessing. My guess is somebody was hiding illegal aliens in the school system and specifically doing it and had something to do with gang activity at the high schools. That's my guess. That is my guess. That's what I'm thinking it is. Or do you think it's something personal? Well, they went to his residence. Is he running drugs for cartels? Who knows? I'll take your guesses. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Alberto Carvalho has been the superintendent of the nation's second largest school district since 2022. He was sued last year by former Superintendent Austin Bootner and student plaintiffs on claims that he allegedly misused $76.7 million in Proposition 28 funds. He allegedly violated the law by using the funds intended for music and arts programs to replace existing budgets instead of expanding the Oh, no. Waste, fraud, and abuse. It was set aside for those music kids. We got a real-life Mr. Holland's opus here. Mr. Holland lost his job because all he wanted to do was teach them kids how to play music. And this guy wanted the money to fix his little budget. Is that what it was? It also claims the district failed to meet the 80% new staff hiring mandate. Well, it's kind of hard to find qualified teachers these days, right? Just go to your local activist meeting of Antifa and you'll find teachers. That's where they're getting them from these days, right? Additionally, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division joined a lawsuit last week that alleges the school district has been discriminating against white students under desegregation policy. Okay, I don't think it's this. The reason I don't think it's that one is because there's tons of colleges that they've gone after for this, and they didn't raid Columbia. They didn't raid Harvard. The district's move to use race-based classifications to label schools, such as predominantly Hispanic, Black, Asian, other non-Anglo, has resulted in the white and Middle Eastern students being denied equal access to the benefits, according to the federal lawsuit. California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom recently recognized Carvalho for his achievements, citing academic improvements for Black and Hispanic students in the Los Angeles Unified School District. Okay, can we play this out for a second? Even if the guy committed murder and there's nothing to indicate that he did, what's his defense going to be? Donald Trump hates Hispanic people, or Donald Trump hates Democrats, or they're weaponizing the justice system, even if he is guilty as sin. And if there's nothing to this, he's going to be, see, Donald Trump is weaponizing the justice system, and Donald Trump doesn't like Hispanics, and it's all about ICE. No matter what, win-win. This guy thinks he's going to win. This is the Democrats' playbook. We all know that, right? Right to the racism argument. Let me know what your theories on this are. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one from the 702. My guess is it's related to inappropriate materials related to children, unfortunately. I don't think it's that. I really don't. I haven't seen them raid schools over the stuff they're teaching in DEI. Now, if it's criminal related, which, I mean, some of that DEI stuff should be, because you shouldn't be showing that stuff to kids, then I understand it too. But yeah, I don't know if it's that. Dan Smith says he's a Bond villain. Okay, the FBI doesn't raid Bond villains. They send in Felix Leiter from the CIA, if they're going to do anything, to infiltrate it. And Felix Leiter, not a good spy. He always needs help from James Bond. Can we be real about Felix Leiter? He got his leg eaten by a shark one time. I saw that movie, and then magically it was back, and he was a different color. I think the James Bond movies are fake. I think this is not a real spy they're talking about here. That's just my guess. I mean, guy gets eaten by a shark. Oh, and James Bond doesn't even look the same either. He's brunette in one of those. He's blonde in the other. All of a sudden, he goes from one age to another. He's ripped in one. I mean, I guess maybe dude is working out so much, dyed his hair a little bit. I don't know. You're telling me the James Bond movies are made up? No. Oh, all right, I was up too late last night. We can all acknowledge that now, right? Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. The American heroes highlighted in President Trump's speech. We're going to discuss a few of them because it made me a little teary-eyed at our State of the Union event last night. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, another chance to win fantabulous prizes. Plus, also, did the war in Gaza cost Kamala Harris the election? A new poll says so, but before we get to any of that, I thought it's important that we talk about the heroes that President Trump honored last night. Now, if you think I missed one because it was a over 2-hour speech, there were a lot, but these ones were my absolute favorite. The first one he spoke about was the rescue swimmer whose name was Scott Ruskin. We spoke about him when this actually happened. It was his very first day, and he managed to rescue a ton of people in those floodwaters last summer. And the amazing thing was he was standing there with one of the people that he rescued. This was just an unbelievable moment from State of the Union last night.
Shone through very brightly. It was July 4th of last year when floodwaters tore through a girls' summer camp in Central Texas. One of the worst things I've ever seen. I was there, rising 26 feet in the matter of minutes, tragically claiming many, many lives. You all remember that one? As the waters threatened to sweep her away, 11-year-old Millie Kate McClelland closed her eyes and prayed to God. She thought she was going to die. Those prayers were answered when Coast Guard rescue swimmer Scott Ruskin descended from a helicopter above. Nobody knew where he came from. It was Scott's first ever rescue mission, a young guy, but very brave, very, very top. Always top in his class, and he lifted not just Millie Kate, but 164 others to safety.
I love that he's smiling there, and I love that the girl's right there next to him, smiling up at him appreciatively. It's really just a special moment there.
People watched Scott from a distance, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The winds were blowing, the rain was pouring, everything was going, and that rapid water, nobody's ever seen anything like it. They said, wow, that's something. Tonight, Scott and Millie Kate are here together, reunited, for the very first time. Thank you, Scott, Millie Kate.
Just an incredible thing. You know, and Democrats not clapping or Democrats politicizing this kind of thing. And I know you're going to say, people on the other side are going to say, Trump's politicizing it. This is what presidents do. When there's American heroes, we honor American heroes. We thank American heroes. And this is apolitical. The amount of things the Democrats didn't stand for last night, I don't know what the Democrats actually do stand for when they won't stand for things like this. A Coast Guard rescue swimmer in his first mission ever saves what? Over 100 girls at that camp? Imagine being the parents of that camp. You send your kid away to summer camp and all of a sudden a flood claims their lives. It's horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. My wife and I were on vacation last year when this whole thing happened. And we're like, this is our worst nightmare. This is absolutely our worst nightmare because all of our kids, we had one kid in the Army, we had another kid who was on a summer program, and we had another kid who was at a summer camp. We tried to get a hold of all of them just to be like, we love you, we love you. Terrifying. Why can't the Democrats just stand up and applaud for somebody like that? Here's another one Democrats didn't stand for. Gary and Avela Beckstrom of West Virginia, who are the parents of Army National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, who was killed earlier this year in D.C. by a terrorist. Listen to what the president said, and then think about the fact that the Democrats didn't stand for political reasons.
One of the brave service members who helped achieve this stunning turnaround was 20-year-old West Virginia Army National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. After a 4-month deployment, she voluntarily extended her service, and her rank was going to be lifted. She was doing so well. They were so proud of her. But the very next day, she was on patrol near the White House when she was ambushed and shot in the head by a terrorist monster from Afghanistan. Shouldn't have been in our country. And all because she wore the uniform of our nation, she was shot. He traveled here because he didn't like people wearing our uniform. He was sick and deranged, shouldn't have been in our country. Sarah Beckstrom died in order to defend our capital, and we are honored to be joined by her wonderful parents, Gary and Eva Lee. Your daughter was a true American patriot, and she will be greatly missed. She was a great person. I saw reports on her. They've never seen anything like it.
And the Democrats don't stand. Why? Because you don't agree with the mission? There's been plenty of military actions that people had issues with. But that U.S. service member, that National Guardsman, woman, gave her life defending our capital, following the orders of the commander-in-chief, and you stand for that. You stand for that. How could they not? How could they not? How about this one? This one I know why they didn't stand, and I'll tell you why I think they didn't stand. This one's a little bit on the longer side. This is Chief Warrant Officer Eric Slover. He's the one who flew the helicopter to get Maduro. This story was nuts. Absolutely nuts. It's a little longer clip, but give a listen.
There were many heroes on that January raid to capture Maduro. Really great heroes. It was very dangerous. They knew we were coming. They were all set. But the deeds of one warrior that night will live forever in the eternal chronicles of military valor. Chief Warrant Officer 5, Eric Slover, planned the mission and was the flight lead in the cockpit of the first helicopter. A big, beautiful, powerful helicopter. It was a massive Chinook carrying, as you can imagine, many, many American warfighters. Wearing the dog tags, his wife Amy had blessed with holy water before he left. She knew it was going to be a rough one. Eric steered the Chinook under the cover of night and descended swiftly upon Maduro's heavily protected military fortress. This was a major military installation protected by thousands of soldiers and guarded by Russian and Chinese military technology. How did that work out? Not too good. While preparing to land, enemy machine guns fired from every angle, and Eric was hit very badly in the leg and hip, one bullet after another. He absorbed 4 agonizing shots, shredding his leg into numerous pieces. And yet, despite the fact that the use of his legs was vital to successful helicopter flight, legs are the most important part of flying a helicopter. To deliver the many commandos who would capture and detain Maduro was the only thing Eric was thinking about. Then, even as he was gushing blood, which was flowing back down the aisle, the helicopter lands at a steep angle. The machine guns stood right in front of him. They were right in front of him, 2 machine gunners who escaped the wrath of the previous planes. Eric maneuvered his helicopter with all of those lives and souls to face the enemy and let his gunners eliminate the threat. Turned the helicopter around so the gunners could take care of business, saving the lives of his fellow warriors from what could have been a catastrophic crash deep in enemy territory. Only after safely landing the helicopter with all the warriors aboard in the exact right spot, which was vital to the mission, probably would have had to maybe cancel the mission if that didn't happen. Eric told his co-pilot, also wounded, but not as gravely, to take over. I'm about ready to pass out. The success of the entire mission and the lives of his fellow warriors hinge on Eric's ability to take the searing pain. It was unbelievable what's happened to his legs of the bullets and keep on flying and landing, and people knew what was happening. Everybody in the back of the helicopter knew because they saw the blood pouring down the aisle.
And last night at the Stake of the Union event, we had some former service members there, had some current service members there. And hearing their reaction to that story was incredible. And then when President Trump awarded him the Congressional Medal of Honor, with him standing there while his legs were blown apart just a month ago. Absolutely incredible. How can you not get emotional about that? How can you not feel the American spirit, the patriotic pride, the nationalism? Those are not dirty words. Those are good words. Don't let the left take them away from you. Why were some Democrats not standing? Because of the mission itself, to capture a ruthless dictator, a communist dictator. Oh, wait, communism didn't work again? Oh, sorry, but cynical Ari Hoffman thinks that's why they weren't standing. Because if they support this mission, it shows they know communism doesn't work. And some of them, that's exactly what they want, which is really terrifying. Really, really terrifying. President Trump also had a guest for the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump. And this was also another special moment, talking about our brave service members.
Tonight we've celebrated many truly extraordinary American patriots, but there is one last living legend to honor before we go. He is one more heroic American aviator, Navy fighter pilot. Royce Williams served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, flying more than 220 missions. In the skies over Korea in 1952, Royce was in the dogfight of a lifetime, legendary dogfight. Flying through blizzard conditions, his squadron was ambushed by 7 Soviet fighter planes. It was his first aerial combat of the war, and despite being massively outnumbered and outgunned, Royce led the takedown of 4 enemy jets and almost destroyed the others, vanquishing his adversaries while taking 263 bullets to his own plane and being seriously hurt. His story was secret for over 50 years. He didn't even want to tell his wife, but the legend grew and grew. But tonight, at 100 years old, this brave Navy captain is finally getting the recognition he deserves. He was a legend long before this evening. Royce, please stand up, and I will ask the First Lady of the United States to present Captain Royce Williams with his Congressional Medal of Honor.
How can the Democrats not stand for something like that? What, just because it's Trump? That is true Trump derangement syndrome. It used to be at State of the Union. There were always things that everybody should stand for, and the way it was done was so that a Democrat could claim, oh, the Republicans stood for me, or a Republican could claim they stood for me, or they just decided it was the right thing to do. I know that the State of the Union is theater, but when you honor an American hero, like the ones we just heard about, 5 American heroes, when you honor an American hero, you stand up. What do we do when we go to sporting events? Every single game I go to, whether it's Seahawks or whether it's the Kraken or whether it's the Mariners, every single time they bring a veteran out and the whole place stands up. And I can't help but thinking the people who are sitting down, are they the ones who also sat for the national anthem? That's not how we roll in this country. That's not how we roll in this country. Today, I had an honor, and it may not sound like such a big deal to so many of you, but to me, it meant a lot. It was the first time I was asked to do this. John Braun is running for Congress, and he had a fundraiser today in Bellevue, and it's early morning because everybody has to go to work afterwards. So after the night last night, State of the Union, I was up till God knows when last night, and then I had to be at this event at 7:30 in the morning in Bellevue. So I drive right back to Bellevue, and they asked me to lead the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm tired, I'm exhausted. I'm not even speaking coherently to some of the people I'm meeting in the room because I'm so tired. I hadn't had a coffee yet or anything. And when I got up there, I was just filled with this pride, getting to lead people and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I've said the Pledge of Allegiance many times. I've never gotten to lead people in it. So that was just a lot of fun. And I know it may not sound like such a big deal, but that's the love that was instilled in me by my family for this country. My grandfather, the Navy veteran. I mean, we were taught to revere his service. That and his brothers in World War II and the other conflicts he was in. That's who we were raised. How can you not stand for this? How can you not stand for this? Really. And I got to say, something else that made it better was the people in the room last night. Because sometimes at home I go, oh, that was awesome. But last night, watching the State of the Union, at the Stake of the Union, with so many of the KVI listeners, playing bingo because we used the Daily Wire's bingo board. Our friends in promotions printed it up for us. It was hysterical. Oh, I got a box. I got a box. It was really great. It was really, really amazing. And watching how the veterans reacted to this and this thing that impacted these people and hearing the noises from the different parts of the room, it made it so much better. This is definitely a repeat event we're going to be doing again. And then some of you were kind enough to bring me beverages, shall we just say, for the kids who are listening. Beverages. Thank you for bringing the beverages over. But one of you brought me a piece of fan mail that was really, really sweet. And this family had brought me one actually at our inauguration party, too. This was really, really sweet from their daughter. And I had actually gotten to meet the family when we went out to the Puyallup Fair this year. But she sent me this, and it was really, really sweet. Dear Ari, hi. You might not remember me, but I saw you at the fair, and you signed a flag for me. I did. I still have it and look at it every day, and I think, yay, so thank you very much, and have a good day from Christine. P.S. I still love your show. And that's why we do what we do. That is why we do what we do for moments like that. We do them because we get to fight we do this because we get to fight for our country. We do this because we get to talk about American exceptionalism. And we do this so that we can raise the next generation of proud Americans. And whether you're Democrat or Republican, if you're proud of this country, you won't do anything to harm this country. This little girl, proud of her country, she's happy I signed a flag for her. How many other Americans burn the flags? How many other Americans look at the flag with disdain? That's not how we were raised. That is not how our generation was raised. It's interesting to me that the Biden administration, some people in it, want to make the American flag a sign of white supremacy and extremists because those MAGA people love that flag, wave that flag. That's not what it's about. That's by people who hate this country. And I believe that there's a lot of Democrats who don't hate this country. I believe there's a lot of Democrats who looked at that nonsense with the frogs last night and all the little yelling and screaming and protests and just said this is juvenile and feel like they're politically homeless now. And say, this isn't my party anymore. They left me. You didn't leave the party. After last night, it was a great speech. And if you hated it that much with the fire of 1,000 suns of some of these Democrats, if you hated it that much, you might be suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. Might be. I did like the people who said last night in the room that the best thing about the State of the Union was realizing it wasn't Kamala Harris who was giving it. That was a great moment. Let me know what your favorite moments of the State of the Union were. Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, speaking of Kamala Harris, was she about to win the election and then polling took a turn because of how she felt about Gaza? We'll give you the details of a shocking new poll when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder that if you're hearing music that isn't our normal kind of music here on the Ari Hoffman Show, it's your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today we are giving away two tickets to see Santana and the Doobie Brothers August 6th at the White River Amphitheater. That's right, my friends. All you have to do is enter the word I give you to the number I give you, and then you will be entered for your chance to win. Today's word is guitar. As in, Carlos Santana plays the guitar. Sorry?
Right now.
There we go.
What is going on right now?
That's what you're hearing on air right now. Type in the word guitar, Guitar. Text it to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 for your chance to win. Your next chance to win comes up tomorrow, so make sure you're listening to the show. Last night, when President Trump was talking, on this one line, I said, oh my God, can you imagine if it had been Kamala Harris? Can you imagine if it was Kamala Harris? Afterwards, we had the panel with me, Brandy, and John, and we were talking about the recap of the State of the Union. This was a common theme, like, can you imagine if it was Kamala Harris? President Trump said this one.
In my first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. Isn't it funny? Sick people. Cambodia and Thailand, Pakistan and India would have been a nuclear war. 35 million people said the Prime Minister of Pakistan would have died if it were not for my involvement. Kosovo and Serbia, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Congo and Rwanda, and, of course, the war in Gaza, which proceeds at a very low level. It's just about there.
Yeah, so this was a moment that was pretty big for me. Can you imagine if Joe Biden had run for a second term? How much worse would the world be right now? Can you imagine if Kamala Harris had won? You think it's bad enough what's happening in a place like Minneapolis. Imagine the Hamasniks being even more emboldened. How much crazier it could be. I mean, that's how bad it could be. You don't have to imagine, because Joe Biden funding Iran is what caused this problem. Joe Biden funding the Palestinian Authority is what caused this problem. Joe Biden withdrawing from Afghanistan is what caused this problem. Fascinating new report from Axios, top Democrat officials who took part in the party's internal examination of the 2024 election defeat, which they're calling the autopsy, by the way. They want to know. Yeah, we had one too, by the way, my friends. We had one too. Every party goes through this. Said Kamala Harris lost significant backing because of the Biden administration's approach to the war in Gaza. The Democratic National Committee's report on what went wrong in 2024 has not been released publicly, reflecting concerns about its potential impact within the party. Do you know what the potential impact is? You're going to find out a whole bunch of people in your party support terrorism. That's what you're going to find out. That's what you're going to find out. We knew this. How many times do we play clips of these lunatic lefties saying they weren't going to vote for Kamala Harris because of the Biden administration's approach to the war in Gaza, which I thought was terrible. Terrible. But they still didn't say, okay, yeah, let's just, destroy Israel. No, Israel has a right to exist. They did say that again and again. Kamala Harris, by the way, didn't believe that. She was just saying that to try and get elected. I'll take you back to when I went undercover to Kamala Harris's book signing event and speech earlier this year at Benaroya Hall. And while I was there, protesters popped up 8, 10, 12 times in the room, all mad at her about Gaza. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know why you're mad at her. She agrees with you. And then at the end of that, she spoke and outlined how much she agreed with them. And this just shows you that so many people in that room were just clapping seals and had no idea what they were talking about, because the protesters are saying what they want Kamala Harris to say, which is the side of Hamas. And they get thrown out, and all the people in the room are booing, booing, booing. And then when Kamala Harris makes their point and says she felt a little differently than Joe Biden, she gets cheers. Which one is it, guys? Clapping seals. Clapping seals. Liberal and moderate Democrats are divided over Israel, with many on the left more critical of the country's actions in Gaza and opposed to U.S. support for Israel. During her brief campaign, Harris sought to strike a balance, expressing support for Israel while calling for a ceasefire and sympathy for Palestinians in Gaza, as well as for the hostages by Hamas. DNC aides assembling this report on Harris's loss to President Donald Trump had a closed-door meeting with pro-Palestinian activists from the IMEU Policy Project that told the administration's support for Israel was a factor in the party's losses because it reduced support among some young voters and progressives. So you brought in the people that support the terrorists, to tell you you didn't support the terrorists enough? This is part of the makeup of your party now? Unbelievable. Here's what President Trump said about the ceasefire.
Under the ceasefire I negotiated, every single hostage, both living and dead, has been returned home. Can you believe that? Nobody thought it was possible. Nobody thought that was possible. Both living and dead. And those parents who had a dead son, their boy, they'd always tell me their boy, they wanted him as much as though he were living. That was an amazing period of time. And they came back, and when we got all of the living hostages back, and many, many before them, but I always said those last 20 are going to be very tough, but we got many, many more, hundreds. But I said those last 20 are going to be tough. We got them back. But we only got back 14 or 15 of the dead, of the 28. And believe it or not, Hamas worked along with Israel, and they dug, and they dug, and they dug. It's a tough thing to do, going through bodies all over, passing up 100 bodies sometimes for each one that they found. Tough job. And they finally got it back to 27. And then Steve and Jared, they got it back to 28. They found all 28. Nobody thought that was possible, but we did it. And I remember the family of the 28th. They were so grieved, but they were so happy as it's possible to be. They had their boy back. The mother said, "Sir, we have our boy back." What a period of time that was, but we got them all back. So thank you both very much. Great job.
I'll say something about that. You know the last hostage, you know how they found him? In his Israeli army uniform, buried in a hospital body bag. Hamas wasn't even keeping track of where these guys were when they took the bodies, when they killed them, and wherever they put them. That's why they had to go searching for them. And Hamas and the Palestinian Authority knew there'd never be a ceasefire unless they turned over every single one of them, because that was a condition of the ceasefire. That's why they were digging with Israel. The president, I don't think that I or any of my co-religionists could ever fully repay him for working that hard to get the bodies back. In the Jewish tradition, getting back a body is a very, very, very big deal. It's a very huge deal. And I don't even think he understands how big of a deal that is. But also it's closure for the family. That war would still be going on. There would still be hostages in Gaza. I firmly believe it if Kamala Harris was elected president. And I think we'd be seeing protests on the streets every single day because Israel would still be bombing Gaza, bombing Gaza, bombing Gaza. I think Iran would still be funding terrorism right now. Iran's got bigger problems than that. We've got 2 aircraft carrier groups in the Middle East. We've got warplanes all over the Middle East right now staging for something big. Something big is on the horizon. Absolutely it is. President Trump said this towards the end of his speech, and I loved this line in the speech.
And no nation should ever doubt America's resolve. We have the most powerful military on earth. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We're going to continue to do so. Also, we just approved a $1 trillion budget. We have no choice. We have to be strong because hopefully we will seldom have to use this great power that we built together. It's really called Peace Through Strength, and it's been very, very effective.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what we're seeing. That's exactly what we're seeing with Iran right now. Why do you think they're moving all those assets into the region? Give up the Ayatollah, stop your terrorism, regime change, and we're done. So far, no American boots on the ground. Question is Iran going to keep stalling? As they usually do, are they going to go back on different agreements? Remains to be seen. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, John Bachman, my friend from Newsmax, is swinging by to tell us about a new book he wrote about Ronald Reagan, and we discuss whether Ronald Reagan had it worse than Donald Trump, or does Donald Trump have it worse than Ronald Reagan? You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. was, because at the time it seemed like he could do no right, according to the mainstream media. It looks like things haven't changed that much. Well, there's a new book out called Turning Point: How Reagan Liberated Grenada and Won the Cold War, and it's by our friend John Bachman, who is a Newsmax anchor. In fact, I call him America's anchor, and he joins us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Of course, Ari. Thank you for having me.
Such a pleasure. What inspired you to write this?
Well, a conversation I had with a close Reagan confidant named Sal Russo, who worked for Ronald Reagan going back to his days even before he was governor of California. I knew Sal through a group I worked for. If you watch Newsmax, you may have seen Troopathon. Sal was running the nonprofit organization that runs Troopathon at the time. And we were out for dinner just talking about Ronald Reagan and how great he was. And I had a similar conversation with Michael Reagan earlier about how great Ronald Reagan was. And one of the things that Sal impressed upon me was how Reagan had this almost superhero's ability to rise above all of the political bitterness and pettiness that he experienced, especially after he was assassinated. He was just operating, or the assassination attempt, he was just operating on a different plane. And Sal said there was one time, though, when I saw President Reagan very nervous and very upset, and that was the day after Operation Urgent Fury began. He was very concerned that he had damaged his relationship with Margaret Thatcher, who, as Nancy Reagan called him and Ronald Reagan, they had the political soulmates, so to speak. And the reason why is because Grenada, even though an independent country, was part of the British Commonwealth, and the Reagan administration gave no heads up that they were actually going in to conduct the operation. They had talked about it. Margaret Thatcher knew it was probably going to happen, but she didn't know when, and they didn't give her the heads up. But to her credit, and being the gracious lady that she was, she forgave him very quickly. And as everyone knows, from there, the two went on to help end the Cold War. Their partnership was indispensable, and it really made a massive difference. And so that was the inspiration for writing the book. And along the way, I just learned so many fascinating facts about what led up to the decision and then what transpired immediately afterwards.
Without giving the book away, tell us a little bit stuff that you learned that the average person wouldn't know. I mean, we all know about Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher's friendship and how they worked together to end the Cold War. But through your research, you must have discovered some new stuff that most people wouldn't know.
Yeah, one of the things that I learned particularly was the inner circle that Ronald Reagan had for him. He didn't have all of it in place right away when he was first inaugurated. And once he finally got his team in place, I tell the story about his first Secretary of State, Alexander Haig, and that not turning out to be the right fit. And then George Shultz gets in place. But it was really William Casey at the CIA and Judge Clark, his national security advisor, that will really give, really close friends of Ronald Reagan, people that he trusted. That created the environment where he had a close team of advisors that he trusted. But it was really his vision that brought everything together. Also, one of the most incredible stories in the book that I share is the moment that Ronald Reagan made the decision to go into Grenada. The moment that he made that decision, he was actually on a golf vacation at Augusta National Golf Course, home of the Masters. He had just fully recovered. They finally had gotten the economy on plane where it needed to be, and so he was going to take a little R&R, and he goes to Augusta with George Shultz and some other people and their wives. While they are there is a hostage crisis at Augusta National. A man who was upset, he was also an alcoholic, had a couple of drinks, ran his blue Dodge pickup truck through the gates of Augusta National, took the pro shop hostage while Ronald Reagan was playing golf there. Reagan actually gets on the phone and negotiates the release. This guy gets arrested. But right there in the same 36-hour time span, the Beirut Marine Barracks bombing happens. And a couple days before that, we had the deposition of the more moderate, quote-unquote, more moderate Marxist dictator in Grenada. He was actually killed. His name was Maurice Bishop. He was killed by Bernard Coward, who was a more radical Marxist, who was not happy with Maurice Bishop moderating and making overtures towards Western countries. And there were 600 American medical students on Grenada, about 400 other American personnel there. And so Ronald Reagan has to make a decision, not only how to deal with Beirut, but also what to do with the island of Grenada and the Americans that were being held hostage there. And a shoot on sight curfew. If they violated the curfew that was put in place by the brutal Marxists on Grenada, they would have been shot on sight.
This is absolutely fascinating stuff. In the last few minutes, we have with John Bachman, award-winning journalist, host of John Bachman Now over on Newsmax. Has this inspired you? I know writing a book is exhausting, but has this inspired you to research more aspects of history, more aspects of Reagan or anything else, given your deep dive into this?
Yes, absolutely. The next thing I really hope to pursue is the relationship between President Kennedy and President Eisenhower, in particular, the Bay of Pigs invasion. I'm hopeful to dig into the recently declassified files from the Kennedy administration, the Trump administration has declassified and promised to release, and really find out what happened with the Bay of Pigs and what that meant for John Kennedy and his presidency, and also the relationship, as I'm sure you probably know, Ari. The Bay of Pigs invasion was authorized by Eisenhower. Kennedy didn't like it, but they did it anyway. And there's a lot of conspiracies about what role that played and Kennedy's relationship with the CIA and what that may have done with his assassination. So that's the next topic I'm fascinated in exploring.
That's fascinating. I can't wait to see that one also. The book is Turning Point, How Reagan Liberated Grenada and Won the Cold War by our friend John Bachman, who's the host of John Bachman Now over on Newsmax, which you should watch every single day, and occasionally you might see me over there. John Bachman, such a good friend, such a good buddy. I am looking forward to reading the book. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure, Ari. Thank you so much.
Great to have you. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And I'm still on a KVI high, we're going to call it. The KVI high, where last night's State of the Union event was so much fun. Meeting so many of you that text and call the show in person, meeting so many people I didn't know listen to the show. I just had a wonderful time. The feedback has been amazing. And I can't believe it. I've gotten 0 complaints aside from, hey, can you fix a little tech thing here or there? It happens. We'll get it right for next year. But really just thank you so much, guys, for making it such a great event. We will for sure be doing it again, and we'll for sure be doing other events. And if you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of these events, head on over to KVI.com right now. Sign up to become a KVI Insider. Download the KVI app. And make sure you follow the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, so that way you never miss out on any of this stuff. And just thank you so much for being you guys and allowing us to do this. Because there's countries where they don't give you freedom of speech. There's countries where they don't let you do this. You know, Kevin reminded me during the break, is that most countries, when their champions win a gold medal or something, they get to go see the fearless leader, whoever it is, and they don't get to say whether or not they like the dude. You're ordered to go, you go. And the Olympians, whether they like President Trump, whether they hate President Trump, get to say so without being executed. That's really a remarkable thing. So the thing about Team USA, you know, Jack Hughes was out on the ice back on the New Jersey Devils tonight. He plays for the New Jersey Devils. Me, I hate anything that comes out of New Jersey. But he's out there tonight, gets a standing ovation from the crowd, and you know what he did? He went over to the other team's bench where one of the other Olympians was. And he told, from the hockey team, and he told him to come out on the ice also, which is just, because they're NHL All-Stars, basically, who's competing in this thing. It was really beautiful. It was really amazing. And let's not forget, New Jersey, very, very blue state. There are still people who love America, who disagree with us politically, and we get to voice those disagreements. Was just absolutely, absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, some of you sent some really good texts about this, talking about the speech. What were your favorite moments? This one here from Tom. The whole thing was outstanding. Our president didn't miss a beat. It made me feel proud to be an American. I remember Biden's State of the Union reminded me of a satanic ritual. I'm a Vietnam veteran and a 52-year retired PSNS employee. God bless America. Yeah, amen. Amen. A lot of you today, you've been sending a whole bunch of these great texts, talking about how it made you feel pride, how it made you feel like America is back. And that's exactly what it was for. That's exactly what it was for. I absolutely love the speech. I really did. I loved all the theater with it. And whoever was doing the camera angles, that was fantastic. And also, big thank you to our friends over at Daniel's Broiler for having the State of the Union event with us last night. I mean, just awesome, awesome event all around. Then I got this good news story because we're doing American heroes and American military themes today. This one actually comes from the War Department. I can't believe how many good news stories we've had from the War Department recently. Joint Base Charleston, South Carolina hosted a ribbon cutting ceremony February 19th, officially unveiling a state-of-the-art military working dog kennel facility and marking a significant investment in enhancing the well-being and mission readiness of the dogs and their handlers. The project began in November 2023, was completed in December 2025 with a total investment of $3.2 million in upgrades. The renovation facility has built-in housing to increase capacity by 2 dogs, sound dampening panels to reduce kennel anxiety, angled chain link fencing to prevent visual agitation, epoxy flooring to minimize moisture and skin-related issues, and expanded obedience yard to support enhanced training and enrichment. The new arrangement of the kennels aims to reduce agitation and anxiety, reducing the risk of behavioral issues and injury. Quote, health is paramount with these dogs. They have enough room for enrichment to keep them happy and healthy, said Air Force Tech Sergeant Kyle Titus, military working dog kennel master assigned to the 628th Security Forces Squadron. So far, we've had 0 injuries in the new facility, which has been absolutely great. Since the remodeling, handlers have observed how the new layout fosters a healthier, safer, and more efficient environment for the dog's health, training, and recovery. Quote, it was like a night and day difference that you could see in their behavior, Titus said. You can walk through the building now and the dogs will remain sleeping. We can definitely tell you the difference in the dog's health and morale with this new facility. The military working dogs conduct extensive training to secure the installation's strategic assets through actively detecting explosives, deterring potential threats, and defending personnel. Quote, the Green Kennel Initiative started about 10 years ago, and the new facility reflects our overall goal to make a massive impact on the military working dogs' health and wellness, said Air Force Staff Sergeant Reginald Conyers, military working dog trainer assigned to the 628th Security Forces Squadron. Looking ahead, the squadron hopes the new facility will extend the working life of dogs while significantly reducing injuries and stress-related issues. Quote, we need to be doing our part as far as giving the dogs ample time to get their energy out, Providing longevity to their caregivers with better conditions and more space to move around is a big goal for us. The new facility supports the squadron and its military working dogs' readiness and capability to defend the mission every day, symbolizing the installation's continued commitment to resilient infrastructure and operational excellence. Quote, the ceremony showcases that we've been going forward in the right direction, improving life conservation of our military working dogs and making massive impact for mission accomplishment. I think we should just change the name of this segment, not to good news to wrap up the day, but just good news stories about dogs. Just nice stories about pets. We do pets a lot, even cats, and I'm not even the biggest cat fan. It should just be good news about animals. That's how we're going to wrap up the day. And occasionally somebody's rescued by first responders. Overall, I just say we do a lot of dog stories. We do a lot of cat stories. Do a lot of things like that. You like the cat stories, right?
I like both dogs and cats, but I am a cat owner currently.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I have children. They poop everywhere, so I don't feel like cleaning up anything else. No, they're older now. They don't do that anymore, but you're always cleaning up after them. Holy cow. People with little kids will know exactly what I'm talking about. Every night, put away all the toys just so they can pull them out again the next day. I built a playroom on my house, so I wouldn't have to do that every night, where it could just stay a mess all week long until nice lady comes to clean the house, because I was tired of dealing with that.
How were you when you were a kid? Did you have a messy bedroom, or were you kind of OCD? Or what
I'm one of those kids who threw everything in the closet when it was time to clean up the room. So there's this mountain of stuff that if you open the closet in the wrong way, you'd be covered in it. I'm also that kid who made things neat by putting piles of stuff everywhere, like papers everywhere that I didn't want to get rid of. That was me. I am not a good roommate. Ask my wife. She will tell you.
I don't know when it was, but there was a time I wasn't, a teenager yet or anything, but I was like, it's a lot easier if I just put the 2-3 things away.
That makes way too much sense.
I know. I don't know what happened to me, but I was like, maybe it was some sort of OCD that kicked in, and then from that point on, I was pretty clean.
Yeah, that is not how we roll in the Hoffman. Well, it's how everybody else rolls in the Hoffman house, but not how I roll in the Hoffman house. All right, my wife's back from Israel tonight. I cleaned the house last night, and cleaning lady came yesterday too. So win for me. That's gonna do it for us today, my friends. But fear not, we will be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests. You've been listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.